All right, everybody. So this is not necessarily a video that I wanted to make, but I feel on just behalf of the Wall Street Silver community, it should be made. Um, I think that it's time that somebody just kind of spoke the truth about Wall Street Silver, and I had been trying to decide for quite a couple days now, like a week, on how to do this video and how to go about it. And I'm not angry, I'm not sad, I'm not really frustrated anymore. I'm just to a point where it's time to move forward. And there's probably a lot of confusion out there because, I mean, we were already dealing with people asking, hey, why are there two Wall Street Silvers? What's going on here? Does somebody need to change their name? And we're going to address all of that. And before I get into any of it, I don't mind if you continue supporting Wall Street Silver and that movement. The movement is amazing. The silver squeeze that's happening, it's amazing to see. So I'm not mad at anybody if they want to continue to be a part of the Reddit page or any of the YouTubes that are out there. This is just kind of why am I walking away from Wall Street Silver. And the best place to do that is how it all started. So that was from Reddit, right? And out of what happened with GME, the GameStop squeeze, right? There came Wall Street Silver because there were a number of us that are saying, hey, this is where the real squeeze is at. So this all kind of started with Reddit, right? And who I've been working with, Dimi, he controls the YouTube channel that I've been on. So there's these characters, Ivan and Jim. You are very aware of who they are. I don't think that they liked that. Dimi actually created the original Twitter and the original YouTube, the YouTube channel that I had been on. He created the originals of those. There was a bit of a problem there because Jim and Ivan wanted the passwords to that Twitter and YouTube account. I don't blame Dimi at all for not giving up those passwords, right? You wouldn't give up your special passwords for whatever you might have created. That makes sense. And somewhere along the lines, I've heard that there was some problems with Demi making a t-shirt shop. I never really had an issue with that either. If you want to capitalize on a movement or something that you're doing, I have no problem with that. Most of you guys that know me know that I I wouldn't really care about that. I don't see a reason for getting upset with it. But because of all that, between not handing over the passwords and something about the t-shirt shop. Because of all of that, Jim and Ivan decided to boot Dimi out as being a Reddit mod. Now, he was a Reddit mod and was very much a part of the Reddit community, right? Well, they booted him out. All over some passwords and stuff, right? So this is when the first breakup kind of started and happened. And it left people really confused as to what was going on because Jim and Ivan were saying, hey, we've got a rogue mod. They stole the Twitter, they stole the YouTube. Nobody stole anything at all. And I'm not here to support Dimi either because that comes later on. Nobody stole anything, and they were making claims that they had this rogue mod. That went on forever. You heard it from the community, you saw it other places, and it was a little bit annoying, but we can kind of skip over that. So when that breakup happened, Demi DM'd me on Discord and said, hey, Fringe, which all of you now know me as Kinsey, could you do an interview with the CEO of AppMex? I said, sure. I love the movement. I didn't really know what was going on between Jim, Ivan, and Demi until a couple days later when I had agreed to things. But it also didn't really concern me very much at the time. So I did the interview with the CEO of AppMex, and from there I just I think I quickly became the main interviewer. And I was happy to be there because I love the movement and what's happening, right? I've expressed that many times with you guys. So eventually, after I kind of had a little bit of a backstory as to what was happening, I had asked Demi if I could make a podcast for the YouTube channel and all of our content also go over to this podcast. And he did agree to that. I put my own money into making that podcast. Nobody helped me do anything. I put my own money into that, and so we got a podcast going. Well, a couple days later, I end up getting an email from Podbean, the host of that podcast, and my podcast had been put under investigation or suspended. Why? Well, because Jim had contacted them and he had actually claimed that I had infringed on his trademark. Well, that didn't work out. The reason it didn't work out, if everyone wants to know legally as to why, and maybe Jim is curious too, it's because your trademark was made 3 days after the podcast was made. 3 days later. And your trademark was Canadian. It wasn't for the US, so that didn't help either. The podcast was created in the US and not in Canada. I guess he got ticked off with that. So I got another, after I got the podcast back, I got another email under investigation, this time not for infringement on a trademark, but for copyright. All of the content on that podcast was mine that I produced. It was edited on this computer, had to explain all of that. And again, I get the podcast back. It's just, it's a bit much, right? So that was kind of my beginning experience with Jim and Ivan. But I got the podcast back. I just haven't put anything up there until I figured out what all was going to be going on, right? It wasn't worth putting energy into if I didn't have a complete understanding of how things might turn out. I think around that time is whenever I had started the Instagram and Facebook page, kind of in between all of that, and that'll kind of become a little bit important later. And during this time, we also have TC. You guys know him as Timmy Chonga in the Discord. He holds the roundtables out of his Discord, right? So we've got him. And we had already been discussing with Dimi that we need to trademark Wall Street Silver, at least for the US. And we can actually worry about taking over the trademark for Canada later. There's a little thing, I believe my attorney told me it was common law. Their trademark for Canada doesn't matter. And maybe Jim and Ivan will learn something here. If they haven't got the US trademark already, it's about time. Because I'm not associated with that anymore, so I really don't care and I can speak out about it. Common law says that whether you made the trademark or not, I can actually fight against it because the YouTube channel was created on X date, right? And you can actually file the US trademark for that date. Now, the same thing doesn't necessarily apply for whoever started the Reddit page. Between me and my attorneys, we did some digging on what happened with GME and their trademark. Everyone was fighting over it. And to me, this whole thing is silly, guys, because I don't see Wall Street Silver as one person, one company, one corporation. This is a group of people. It's a movement that never should have been divided in this sort of way, right? But yeah, nothing holds weight with their trademark if I did decide to fight against that. And we're going to get into that a bit later. But yeah, we had been discussing that. And I don't think that Dimi really took it very seriously, and later on he did. I think one of the things that might have changed that is Jim decided to send an email to Craig Hemke. So that way Craig Hemke could forward me the trademark papers for Canada. And again, I've already done my research. I've already talked to attorneys. It doesn't really matter. Now I just need to get Dimi on the same page, right? That wasn't going very well. Some of you might already know that we've had some communication issues. And another thing that just kind of kept stressing that, every single interview I did with someone, you would have Jim or Ivan sending that person an email. And they were basically saying, hey, you got scammed. That's the fake Wall Street Silver. But we know that that's not true. And it was just kind of really annoying at that point. It was just kind of like having a stick in your side, right? Like you're just being a pain in my side at this point. Somewhere in between all that, I'm not going to name who because they're a pretty big character, but there's a large character in the Silver community that tried to get Dimi and Ivan to come together so they could sort things out like men, which no one had been trying to do. I even tried to reach out to Ivan 2 or 3 times myself on different platforms to try to get a hold of him and see if we could mend things. I never got a response back, but because of this larger figure that I think everyone has respect for, they came together and were supposed to have an off-the-record sort of meeting to try to, just shake hands at the end of the day. Well, that did not work because Ivan just kind of wanted to act like a clown basically the entire time. And anytime there was a question asked, Ivan would just reply with trademark. So no educated answer, no getting to the bottom of anything. And those questions were, who started the YouTube channel? Ivan would answer trademark. Well, who started the Twitter? Again, he would answer trademark. I know this might be hard to keep up with, and it's stupid drama. I can say that it is stupid drama, but again, I think that the truth just kind of needs to be put out there. Me and TC dedicated a lot of our time to all of this, I think, just to be played in the end. So Dimi's becoming a little bit more difficult to work with. And you might ask, why? Well, it's because Dimi does absolutely nothing. He expects you to basically do everything. The only thing he had to do was hit the upload button. That's it. At the end of the day, that is all that he did. And that's kind of difficult. Whenever you have a team of people trying to do something, you should all be on the same page and be communicating, right? But Dimi doesn't work at all, and he doesn't communicate. He just kind of expects slave labor at some point, and that's kind of a harsh word to use, but he just wanted to crack a whip and you to do something as he says. And part of that, let me explain some of that. The roundtable meetings that we were having. TC has a job. He has a family. We have things going on. But Dimi would pressure him so hard to do that. And this is when things started becoming very clear to me that Dimi is not in this for the movement. I don't think he ever cared about the movement. Both parties are trying to make as much money as possible. While the trend lasts, they both just want to capitalize as quick as possible and move on. There's no real heart in it. No one actually cares. As they say, power corrupts and absolute power corrupts. And I think that that's what we're seeing here. At this point, I've now spent hours on the phone with attorneys, but I'm not going to move forward with anything until I can get Dimi truly on board with me, right? There's communication issues here. I'm not going to move forward with a damn thing until we can both be on the same page. And also Dimi needed to send, half of that money up front. It's not cheap to get attorneys involved, and I knew exactly what we were going to get into and exactly how to execute it. And Dimi's just not taking it very seriously there for a while, or just kind of playing ring around the rosy with things. And to kind of fill you guys in on that sort of stuff, I had been working over 8-hour days as far as trying to secure interviews, getting the interview, editing the interview, making the thumbnail. Like, I did all of that. When there was a round table, TC put all of that together and he held the event, right? Some of them went on forever. But Dimi and I had a verbal agreement, and this isn't necessarily how things started. It's just how they got in between everything else. But we had a verbal agreement that I would get 35% of the income that was made on the channel, and anything else, vice versa, right? If you let me produce the podcast, I just want a certain percentage of that. Anything that happens, I just don't want to work for free, because this was taking up so much of my time. And also it's money that can be put back into the progress that we're making. 9 times out of 10, that's what I do with things. But I did make an agreement with him that I wouldn't get paid until all of the legal stuff was kind of out of the way first. I think that that's pretty fair if you ask me, because the money was there to at least get legal work started. And I had actually sold all of my crypto to get started on this stuff. So a decent percentage of, what I had invested, I wanted to invest into Wall Street Silver. I saw a future for what we were doing if everyone could get on board. But nothing ever happened, again, because Dimi's not communicating. He just doesn't communicate enough. And when he did, it was just kind of like a game of ring around the rosy again. I'm not sure what I should do with these attorneys. At this point, it's just wasting a lot of my time, and it's wasting a lot of these attorneys' time. It is, because they're not paid for every little thing just for having a chat with them. They're not necessarily paid for that sort of stuff. So now I'm wasting their time. And this is where Instagram comes back into play here. So I get an email one morning that my Instagram had been shut down temporarily and it's under investigation. So same story again. Jim claims that there was a trademark and copyright infringement. So again, I go through the process. I do get it back. They actually restored it. So whenever I got the response that it was fully restored, I couldn't log back in, and I went through this process 3 times. Well, it turns out over just someone saying something over your Instagram, there's kind of a 50-50 chance on whether you'll get it back or not. So even though it was fully restored, it's kind of like in this weird gray zone of Instagram of they basically have it deleted before I ever had the chance to like explain anything. And I got all that done within like 24 hours or less. So that was just really frustrating. And it's kind of funny to think about how I built that Instagram faster than Ivan paying for ads. That's where some of that money was going to. And I don't know how much they were paying for ads, but I know that I saw them come up on both of my Instagram feeds, both my personal and for business, along with the Wall Street Silver. And I don't know, they just couldn't necessarily keep up. So maybe some of the anger there and being kind of a stick in the mud sort of feeling that you get from them. Maybe it's because they didn't realize how hard it was going to be to actually build something up. I'm not positive, but Jim, you got to win there because even though my Instagram was restored, I can't get back in. So there you, I don't know if I'll ever be able to get that back. Instagram platform just kind of sucks sometimes for some of that stuff, but that's okay because again, I'm walking away from Wall Street Silver. Well, after this happened, I'm like, look, if they can successfully take down my Instagram and waste time with the podcast and everything else, me and TC had a serious discussion with Dimi about this on you need to hurry up and move forward because still at this point, there was no trademark filed for the US. But again, I'm not going to spend any money making an LLC or moving forward with trademarks or paying an attorney to write Jim and Ivan a nice letter if we're not on the same page. So there's like a bunch going on in between all that, but and red flags are showing up everywhere. Literally everywhere. Because every time I'm trying to move forward, Dimi is saying that it can be done cheaper this way or that way. And then whenever he actually goes and looks into it, it can't be done cheaper. Certain things just cost a certain price. And he actually admitted to TC that he doesn't think that the channel is worth investing in. Now, I'm not going to tell you the amount that Dimi has made off of that YouTube channel, but it was definitely worth investing in if you wanted to keep and maintain it, right? Dimi would often show me the analytics of the YouTube. He would show me the money that was made. And I'm not going to reveal that sort of stuff. That's personal to him. Extremely personal. But I find it really interesting how he never thought that, there was no point in investing in the channel. There was no point in moving forward. He basically just wanted to keep doing what he was doing and use us for free, all of our time, all of our resources for free, while he sits back and collects a check, I guess. And I'm not going to disclose the amounts that, I'm not going to disclose how much the podcast cost. I'm not going to discuss how much legal fees cost, but he finally agreed to an LLC because the trademark was going to be put under that LLC. And I finally get documents back, but I hear from TC and he lets me know TC paid half. Instead of Dimi paying for half of it, TC paid for half of it. Now, I've already been having several problems with Dimi before then, but that was my final straw. The moment that TC paid for half, Dimi is all about the channel again. How it's going to make money, how it's going to do this, how it's going to do that. And it basically just all revolved around money, 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 money. Interesting. So it's not worth it for you to invest in it, which was a drop in the bucket compared to what his channel had made. But you're all for it the moment that someone else pays your dues. The contract was made to be 50-50. I've actually got None of this is worth anything anymore. None of this, it's all to waste. It doesn't mean anything. So thanks for that. Thanks for wasting my time, TC's time, valuable time, right? Thank you for making us pay for something that you never wanted to be a part of. That operating agreement for the LLC, me and Dimi had split, supposed to be 50-50, right? And more than anything for money or anything else for me, that was more to protect both Dimi and I from the possible suing that could come from Ivan and Jim later. And had Demi just moved much faster, we wouldn't have been in this position at all, but now I understand it completely. It was all just to make as much money as possible. And I feel the same way about Jim and Ivan. They wanted so much control. And I mean, you can see it. They have gathered every sponsor that they could. I made it very clear to Demi that if I'm going to be a part of this, we're not going to accept any sponsorships, because the moment that you accept sponsorships, there's going to be a bias there. I'm not going to come into this and do reporting or interviews with some kind of bias. It's not going to happen. So, I mean, after all that, we didn't hear anything from Demi. After everything was paid for, nothing at all. He just dipped out. He finally texted me back one morning, and I guess he wanted to act like everything was normal. And it wasn't. The moment I wanted to talk about anything serious, he just disappeared. The same thing happens to TC. I'm just kind of upset that I wasted so much of my time over there, but I'm almost upset. I'm almost just as upset that, you know, the whole thing was for someone else to make, I think, as much money as possible. That's truly how it's coming off, is just to make as much as possible. And that's kind of sad, because I thought that there was going to be more to this movement than that. And that doesn't mean that the movement's over. It doesn't mean that it's ended, guys. I just don't think that we should look for any one particular person to be your leader, so to say, right? This video has been a bit rambly, and I did give Demi plenty of time. He had over a week to try to respond to me and to resolve this, because I understand. If you're having family issues, if you're having financial issues, whatever it might be, he could have came and talked to me at any time. And I would be extremely understanding as to what was going on and how we could help him. But I don't think that that's what any of this was about. You know, there could have been reasons, but the fact that he won't come forward, man up, and talk to me about what that might be, it just looks really bad. And so that's the truth about Wall Street Silver. It's just three people trying to make as much money as they can in the shortest amount of time. And that's not something that I can give my respect or time to, right? I don't mind people making money to maintain. If you're doing work, you do deserve to be paid for that work. But just seeing how the other side is going about it, and then what Demi kind of did to me and TC, Wall Street Silver's kind of left a bad taste in my mouth, and I'm not so sure that I'll continue to follow those people so much anymore. I love the community that has come around it. I love how we can all kind of learn things together in different discords on the YouTube, and even if you're still allowed to be over on the Reddit. And I say if you're allowed to be because the Reddit page is extremely censored. So I guess if you're allowed to be a part of that, that's good. But yeah, I'll stop wasting your time now. That was just the truth about Wall Street Silver. So I hope you understand why I had to make this video. Hopefully we don't have too many keyboard warriors, but I do expect them. So thanks for stopping by.